Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. It is the final Monday in September of 2023. I don't recall the date, but that doesn't matter.
25.
25, September 25th of 2023. And there we go. So here we are, all of us, and Copper. Hello, Copper. Glad you can join us. Copper is, of course, the white and orange cat who likes the Bible study. He likes the Word of God. So we're going to get into that. And I'd like to welcome Derek back. Hello, Derek, back.
Hello.
This is a special day for Beverly. And so, hello, Beverly. Congratulations on your special day. And hello to Karen. Hi, Karen. And we hope you're doing well. And Sylvia and Terry has her grandkids and her daughters. And so it looks like she's not going to make it today. But hello, Terry. And anybody else out there that comes to check in on us, welcome. All right, please like and subscribe. I've never done that before, but I've watched YouTube videos and I hear everybody saying that. Please like and subscribe. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And even if you don't want to, that doesn't matter. Okay, so we left off at the end of chapter 22.
No,
No, we did not. Where did we-
21.
The end of at verse 21?
We're starting 22 today.
In Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Didn't we do 22 last week?
No.
Yes, we did though, because it starts off with if you see your countryman's ox or sheep and it's gone astray, you're supposed to go find it and hang on to it for them until they come to retrieve it.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. It's okay. Believe me. There
Yeah,
are
but
days when I don't know my elbow from my ear.
my fault.
No. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's neither
So
here nor there, but where we are. So that's what's important.
So where are we?
I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is, no, that is the point.
Is this over?
I think we're at 23.
Yeah, I believe we are at 23.
Okay.
Yes, we are at 23, and I remember that because chapter 22, verse 30 was a fairly confusing statement, and I had to look up what they meant by skirts.
Skirts.
Yes, it says in verse 30 of chapter 22, it says, "A man shall not take his father's wife, so that he will not uncover his father's skirts." But we covered, that's what it says.
Oh, well, this one says he must not dishonor his father's bed.
Yes, it's the same thing.
Mine says father's garment.
Garments.
Oh.
Yeah. Derek, do you have a?
Mine says, a man shall not take his father's wife nor discover his father's skirt.
Yeah. So since we're all using different versions, this could get a little bit tricky. Go ahead, Rach. What?
What if the father dies? Then he's still not to do that? Okay.
No, that was his father's. That was his stepmother. So
Oh, yeah.
Or his mother, or whatever.
Gotcha.
Do you know what? In
What?
the new Bible,
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh.
I'm comparing, what I have to this, and it doesn't have anything after verse 28.
It probably starts a different chapter. What does it say at the beginning of the?
Oh, it's 23.
Yeah.
Chapter 23. Violating his father's rights.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, an entirely different chapter. That's interesting.
Yes. Yes.
I will be still now.
You insist. You don't have to be. If you want to get up and dance, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the beginning of chapter 23. Normally we're all convergent on the NASB because it's a uniform and everybody's then on the same page, but we'll muddle through this because that's how things go. All right. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, comments from anything we've read or discussed so far in the last chapter, or just life in general? All right. Chapter 23. No one who is emasculated or has his male organ cut off shall enter the assembly of the Lord. Now, emasculated would be trans, cross-dresser, effeminate. So no effeminate male, no cross-dressing male, no and no man who has been castrated or made it into a eunuch will enter the assembly of the Lord. No one of illegitimate birth shall enter the assembly of the Lord. None of his descendants, even to the 10th generation, shall enter the assembly of the Lord. No Amorite or Moabite shall enter the assembly of the Lord. None of their descendants, even to the 10th generation, shall ever enter the assembly of the Lord, because they did not meet you with food and water on the way when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam, the son of Beor, from Pethor of Mesopotamia, to curse you. You remember Balaam and his talking donkey? Remember? And on his way to meet with the king, the angel of the Lord himself was standing in the way, and the donkey was trying to get out of there, and Balaam was beating the donkey until the donkey says, "What are you doing, man? I'm your buddy. Don't you see what's happening here?" You know? Saved Balaam's life. And yeah. 5, nevertheless, the Lord your God was not willing to listen to Balaam, but the Lord your God turned the curse that Balaam was offering instead into a blessing for you. And this is the first time he says this. And this is significant, because the Lord your God loves you. Up until this point, it's been because I am the Lord, because I'm the Lord your God, because I'm the one that delivered you from Egypt, because I'm the one that separates the right from the wrong, because I'm this, because I'm that. And this is the first time he makes his declarative statement, because the Lord your God loves you. He doesn't want you to do any of these things. He doesn't want you to enter any kind of a path that may or may not offend him or be offensive to him, because that's not what he wants. He doesn't want his children to be on the trotting the wrong path or doing anything that's going to result in an offense to God. And the reason for that is because he loves you. I think that's a powerful statement. And personally, I'm glad that he waited this long, the 5th book, to finally make that statement. You know, there's no...
Why?
Because it comes with impact. If he had been saying this at every line, we would have gotten used to it and it would have been old hat. You know, but all of a sudden he says, this is why I'm doing this. I don't want you to do any of these things because I love you. Up until now, it's like, I want your obedience. Give me your obedience, you know, because my ways are the perfect ways, because I have set in front of you the perfect way, you know, walk the straight and the narrow, walk my perfect way. And now it's because I love you, because he loves us, because he loves them. 6, you shall never seek their peace, the peace of the Edomite or the Moabite or Ammonite, or not Edomite. No, sorry, scratch the Edomite. The Ammonite or the Moabite. It says, you shall never seek their peace or their prosperity all your days. These people are your sworn enemies. These people have had nothing but evil intent for you, to the point that they hired somebody to come out and curse you. And this is their thinking on you. So they are you shall never seek their peace or their prosperity all your days. You shall not detest the Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not detest an Egyptian, because you were an alien in his land. You know what it's like to be there. if you have an alien, an Egyptian among you, or you encounter an Egyptian, you're not to turn them away or treat them poorly, because you understand what it's like to be an alien in their land. The sons of the third generation of Edomite or the Egyptian, who are born to them, the Edomite or Egyptian, may enter the assembly of the Lord. When you go out as an army against your enemies, you shall keep yourself from every evil thing. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. 10. If there is among you any man who is unclean because of a nocturnal emission, then he must go outside the camp, and he may not re-enter the camp. But it shall be, when evening approaches, he shall bathe himself with water, and at sundown he may re-enter the camp. Yes.
What is it?
What does it say? What does it say? A wet dream, basically.
Okay.
What does it say in your version there, you guys?
Nocturnally.
Nocturnal. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Derek, are you reading the King James?
You're on
What-
verse 10.
Verse, yes.
If there be among you any man that is not clean by reason of uncleanness, that chanceth him by night, then shall he go abroad out of the camp. He shall not come within the camp.
Okay.
So it calls it uncleanness that chanceth him by night.
Okay.
That
Nocturnal emission.
Yeah.
Oh.
A wet dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it shall be, when evening approaches, he shall bathe himself with water, as opposed to like with sand or crickets.
Rick.
And at sundown he may re-enter the camp. I don't know who that is, and I apologize for the interruption. But it shall be, when evening approaches, he shall. Oh, I keep reading this, so that So if any of you are worrying about it, now here's your remedy for that. Okay. 12. You shall also have a place outside the camp, and go out there. Make dirty, poopy. 13. And you shall have a spade among your tools, and it shall be, when you sit down outside in order to do your business, you shall dig with it, shall cover up your excrement. There you go. Because that's just thoughtfulness, and it's also cleanness. And as I found out from centuries and centuries and centuries of not having any kind of plumbing to deal with human feces, that it was causing cholera and all sorts of plague-like conditions. So God's all about this. He knows how things function. He gets it. He understands it. He made it. He knows how all the puzzle pieces work together. So there's that. So he says, since the Lord your God walks, and this is a beautiful thing. This just blows me away. Since the Lord your God walks in the midst of your camp to deliver you and to defeat your enemies before you, therefore your camp must be holy. And he must not see anything indecent among you, or he will turn away from you. Now, he's walking in the midst of their camp. Think about that. It's not like he's somewhere else and he's just kind of considering what things are going on. He's right there. He's in their midst. And he's there to bless them and to take care of their endeavors. And he's saying there should be nothing there that's even indecent. Otherwise, God leaves. I don't want any part of that. You guys are just, I don't know what you're doing. Nuts. No, nothing. So I'm thinking, the barracks of armies and Marines and Air Force and the birthing departments and navies, they're in a lot of trouble. They've got posters, and I don't know, do they have centerfolds anymore? I don't think they have that anymore, do they? I mean, the naughty pictures of women, like did back in World War II and all of that. I don't think they have that in print. Now people have all that stuff on their thing, cell phone or whatever. Okay, so there's that. That's not a good idea. 15. You shall not hand over, oh, excuse me. Yeah, you shall not hand over to his master a slave who has escaped from his master to you. In other words, and has come to you. It has sought you out, and now he's come to you. He's escaped his master. He's left his master, and now he's come to you. You're not supposed to take him back. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Come up with me. I got to take you back. He says, nope, not do that. Says, he shall live with you in your midst in the place which he shall choose in one of your towns where it pleases him. You shall not mistreat him.
So it's okay to keep the slave, even though the slave doesn't belong to you.
Well, it sounds like he's a free man among them. He can live where he wants to, he's got that option. He has that choice. And you're just not supposed to hand him back over to the slave master. There's a number of reasons for this. We had discussed this at some point, I think. Well, maybe not. Maybe it was at a different venue. But slavery in Israel was different in that they had a lot of latitudes, and there was a termination date on their slavery or indenturedness, if you will. And so, and you're not to mistreat them. If somebody runs away from a slave owner, there must be a reason for that, And on top of that, in the New Testament, Paul addresses that of submitting, and if you are a slave, you are to submit to your master the way you would to the Lord. And so so the Lord will deal with this. If somebody cuts and runs from their slavery, let them in among you. Don't return them. Let them live where they want to. Welcome them in, and the Lord will handle all of that. Everybody inevitably will stand before the Lord and give an account for their own actions and their own life and all their own decisions. That's an inevitable thing, And so, so this would be among them. Thoughts, comments, questions?
That's an interesting contrast from where you thought we were starting today, which was 22, talking about if you see your brother's ox or sheep go astray, bring them back. It's like the opposite. It like sets man above animals.
Exactly. These slaves are not livestock.
Yeah.
They're made in the likeness and image of God. It's a good point. Thank you for that, Derek. Very much. Anybody else? All right, 17. None of the daughters of Israel shall be a cult prostitute, nor shall any of the sons of Israel be a cult prostitute. And they had those back then. They had temple prostitutes in various religions and in pagan life, and they would dedicate themselves to being the prostitute for amorous adventures in the names of their deities. And so God says, no. And then 18, he says, you shall not bring the hire of a harlot, the money she's made, or the wages of a dog, who would be probably the male prostitute, into the house of the Lord your God for any votive offering. For both of these are an abomination to the Lord your God. Why? Because their money is gotten from doing something that God he detests, prostitution and free sex, all this lasciviousness and all of that. God doesn't like that. He creates, man and a woman for husband and wife, and that's how the union goes. And he's given us in 22 a very clear picture of how important chastity is to him. And so if a person has dedicated themselves to another god, that's first off, That's sunk them in God's eyes. And then if they have given themselves over to another deity and now they're prostituting themselves, physically prostituting themselves in the name of this deity to serve this deity, God doesn't want that money. Don't go bringing that to me. How'd you get that money? You keep that. Do what you want. I don't want it. That's gross. I don't want anything to do with that. Nobody knows where that's been. Anyway, okay. I like this one. 19. You shall not charge interest to your countrymen. Interest on money, food, or anything that may be loaned at interest. You may not charge interest to your countrymen. You may charge interest to a foreigner, but to your countrymen you shall not charge interest, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all that you undertake in the land which you are about to enter to possess. Now, if that's the case, that completely eliminates the Federal Reserve, doesn't it? Because it's a privately owned, foreign-controlled bank that loans money to the United States government at interest. So it loans money to us at interest, and we are its countrymen.
Oh, never mind.
So why would the government loan money to its countrymen at interest? And why would the government hire foreigners to lend them money at interest? It just doesn't make any sense. It's utterly not biblical.
Well, you
So
said you can charge your foreigner interest, just not your countrymen.
yes, and the Federal Reserve is not a government. It's not a government entity. It is a privately owned and foreign-controlled bank, central bank, that loans money to the United States and charges the United States interest, except it does it in the name of the United States.
Oh.
So if the United States is loaning money to the people of the United States, why are they charging interest? All right. And credit cards and, it used to be, I think, interest, anything above 18% was considered usury. And the government considered it illegal. That's like extortion. And now regularly you see credit card companies and credit companies offering credit to people at nearly 30% or higher. That was illegal not too long ago. Now it's not. It's all about the money. Since we have a fiat currency and none of this is based on anything real, they can charge whatever they want to. They just fudge the numbers with that. But, still, it's not biblical. Let's see. 21. When you make a vow to the Lord, your God, you shall not delay to pay it, for it would be sin in you, and the Lord your God will surely require it of you. However, if you refrain from vowing, it would not be sin in you. You shall be careful to perform what goes out from your lips, just as you have voluntarily vowed to the Lord your God what you have promised. The foxhole prayers, I promise, God, I swear, God, if you do this for me, I will never do this again, or whatever, and then as soon as, the crisis passes, you go back about your merry business, doing whatever it was you were doing before, and giving no thought whatsoever to the vow you made to the Lord. And the Lord keeps track of these things. He says, wait a minute, you promised me you told me you wouldn't do this. We may forget it. He does not. 24. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, then you may eat grapes until you are fully satisfied. Picking them off the vine, you can fill yourself up on that thing, but you shall not put any in your basket. You're not there to load up to take stuff home. So you can wander through the vineyard because you're not going to eat nearly as much as you would if you gather it. So it's a courtesy, and it's also just common sense, and it's also looking out for your neighbor. This whole message in here is God is telling us we are our neighbor's keeper. We are responsible for making sure that our neighbor is well taken care of as well as we are. And he goes on to say, when you enter your neighbor's standing grain, a grain or wheat field, then you may pluck the heads with your hand. And Jesus showed us that. That's what he was doing. It was a Sabbath day, and he and the apostles were wandering through the wheat field. And they were pulling the heads of grain off that, and they were eating. They weren't gathering it up. They were eating it, just like it says here. And then the Pharisees and Sadducees got mad at him because he was doing that on the Sabbath. But it says, when you enter your neighbor's standing grain, then you may pluck the heads with your hand, but you shall not wield a sickle in your neighbor's standing grain, because that's going to permanently damage that. And you are taking ownership of that. This is mine, and we're to understand that that the Lord tells us, well, he will in a little bit, that when you go to do harvest and anything falls off the vine or falls off the tree or falls off the whatever it is, leave it there. That's for the people to come by that are hungry to eat. You leave that as an offering to the Lord in their name.
Yeah, you see that in the book of Ruth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was their custom.
I thought you said roof. Roof.
Yeah. That's the testament above all the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a peak. All right. Well said, sir. Well said. All right. Thoughts, comments, opinions, disgruntled statements.
It almost seems like a balanced view of welfare, where the idea is you can survive off the efforts of your neighbor, but you can't be profiting off of the efforts of your neighbor. You're not supposed to take all their hard work and then just keep it all to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's enough for you to eat that day, you can go ahead and eat.
Yes, completely agree. Anybody else have a thought on that?
Did they have anything like welfare back in the day, back then?
Yes, exactly. Well, we're going to find that out. We're going to see where God makes provision for that.
Okay.
Excuse me. So God blesses people that have with enough that they will eat and be satisfied, but the leftovers then go to whomever God has provided for in that regard. He gives the example, Jesus gives the example in the Beatitudes that the birds of the field, they neither reap nor do they sow, and they don't gather, but they're fed every single day. God takes care of them, and likewise he does the same for us, and especially in this venue in for the Israelites. All right, so to answer your question, we'll just move on. Chapter 24. When a man takes a wife and marries her, and it happens that she finds no favor in his eyes because he has found some indecency in her, and he writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out from the house, and she leaves his house and goes and becomes another man's wife, and if the latter husband turns against her and writes her a certificate of divorce and puts it in her hand and sends her out of his house, or if the latter husband dies who took her to be his wife, then the former husband, the first guy, who sent her away, is not allowed to take her again to be his wife, since she has been defiled. For that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not bring sin on the land which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. When a man takes a new wife, he shall not go out with the army, nor be charged with any duty. He shall be free at home 1 year, and shall give happiness to his wife whom he has taken.
Sorry.
Happiness. That's one way to put it. Okay. All right. Various laws now entail or ensue here. 6, no one shall take a hand mill or an upper millstone in pledge, for he would be taking a life in pledge, because this is what the person's using to tread out their grain. all right, you owe me 60 shekels. Give me your millstone there. Those things are hard to come by. You got to find the proper rock. You have to chisel away on the rock. You have to construct something to hold the rock. It takes a lot of work, and I imagine those things are not easy to come by. But if you don't have the grain to crush the grain, and you take somebody's millstone, it's like, okay, you owe me 60, give me your oven. I'll take your stove oven with me now. And you can deal with it. You got a candle there. So it's like taking their life.
So those are like those title loan places that loan out on a car title.
Yes, very much so. Yes. Yeah.
Good
Exactly.
analogy.
Yeah, that is. 7, if a man is caught kidnapping any of his countrymen of the sons of Israel, and he deals with him violently or sells him, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge the evil from among you. So you don't let kidnappers in there. Get them out of there. Put them to death. These are evil people. They're willing to steal another human being made in the image and likeness of God and treat them like property, a possession, some inanimate object of no value to them or monetary gain. But clearly they don't have any worth to the person that's kidnapping them other than what they can get for them. So all they're seeing is dollar signs or shekel signs or whatever.
Shekel signs.
Yeah. Be careful against an infection of leprosy, that you diligently observe and do according to all that the Levitical priests teach you, as I have commanded them, so you shall be careful to do. This is why when Jesus healed the lepers, the first thing he said to them is, now go show yourself to the priests so that they can see that you are clean. And with the 10 lepers, they're all excited. They get up and they run off. And then the one comes back and said, and thanks, Jesus. Thank you for healing me. And he says, weren't there 10 of you? Yeah. Anyway, what did the other 9 do? He says, 9, remember what the Lord your God did to Miriam on the way as you came out of Egypt. Remember, she was grumbling against Moses, and he smote her with leprosy. She turned as white as a ghost, and she was outside the camp, and she was going to die out there until Moses made intervention for her, and then God relented.
Who was Miriam?
It was Moses' sister.
Oh, okay.
Miriam and Aaron were his siblings. Thank you. When you make your neighbor a loan of any sort, you shall not enter his house to take his pledge. Hey, I'm coming over to get my $60 oh, you're pledging your oven or you're pledging your millstone. Give it to me. I'm gonna come get that. Okay. You shall remain outside, and the man to whom you make the loan shall bring the pledge out to you. If he is a poor man, you shall not sleep with his pledge. You're not just going to keep it overnight. You're not going to take it home and keep it for yourself. When the sun goes down, you shall surely return the pledge to him, that he may sleep in his cloak and bless you, and it will be righteousness for you before the Lord. These things are to be done in love. Yeah, I know you're in hard times. Yeah, so I'll loan you whatever it is. You can have access to my fig tree for a month or for this season or whatever. In exchange, you let me use your hedge clippers or whatever you got. I'll come get it tomorrow. So you show up and you stand at his door and you wait for the guy to bring out the hedge clippers. That consummates the deal. Now the person is surrendering this of their own free will. They're entering into that binding contract because they've chosen to do that. Whereas if they don't bring it out, you don't go in and get it. That just null and voids the contract you have. Fine. You're not going to give me the hedge clippers. It's fine. I understand. But you're not getting access to my fig tree now. Unless out of love. I know you need it, and I know that you're afraid to give me the hedge clippers. But that's our deal. This is our deal. We're going to do this exchange. So when the guy gives and brings out the hedge clippers, the man who is taking that as his pledge or collateral, if you will, he says, fine, and he leaves and he brings it back the next day and says, here's your hedge clippers back. Now I know you're serious. Now I know that your word is your bond, and I can trust you with whatever it is you're going to borrow from. So it's about honor, it's about love, it's about conforming to the most loving denominator. Treat each other with kindness and respect and compassion, instead of, oh yeah, I'll loan you 50 shekels for 60 shekels back, and that hedge clipper, but no, you don't do that. You treat each other with love. You treat each other equally and with kindness and compassion. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Cool.
So
Very
banks aren't,
Usury. God hates usury. He hates usury because it takes from the poor and gives to the rich.
so
Because
bank,
sorry,
right? So
yeah,
banks and,
banks, credit, any of that, anything that's charging interest,
okay,
to your fellow countrymen. If I start a bank, I mean, unless I'm starting up the first immigrant bank of the United States, but even if they're aliens within the country, then they're within the country. But if it's like I'm going to use this money and I'm going to loan it out to the country of Guatemala, or the Seychelles, or one of the Slovakias or something, then I can charge interest, and that will cover the costs of bringing the money and doing everything else. So you can see there would be an effect to that. But if I'm going to loan it to my fellow countrymen, then I'm not allowed to charge interest. Just loan it out. If you got that much, it's because God's blessed you with it. So let these people, what did Jesus say in the Sermon on the Mount? Give to those that ask of you. Loan to those who want to borrow. If somebody slaps you on your left cheek, turn and give them your right cheek. They take your coat, give them your shirt too. If they force you to walk a mile, walk two with them. Why? Out of love, because that's what Jesus did. Love and compassion. 14. You shall not oppress a hired servant who is poor and needy, whether he is one of your countrymen or one of your aliens who is in your land, in your towns. You shall give him his wages on his day before the sun sets, for he is poor and sets his heart on it, so that he will not cry out against you to the Lord, and it becomes sin for you. Oh yeah, wait till the end of the week and I'll pay you that. Well, in the meantime, this guy has no money. He doesn't have anywhere to stay. He doesn't have any money to use to go get something to eat. A week away is a long time. I've been in the situation. That was from really terrible money management, because I was young and stupid. But at the time, it's like I just blew all my money on a Tuesday, and Friday is a very long way away. In the meantime, I got to put gas in the car. I got to get something to eat. I've got bills to pay. I've got things to cover. So I remember back in the day when people would get paid each day. You get a day's pay for a day, or a day's wages for a day's work. And they would pay you by the day, that day. A lot of companies still do that with when people work for cash. They'll hire them. If they're cherry pickers or apple pickers or cabbage pickers or potato pickers, not the nose pickers, though. And you know, they pay them cash by the day. 16. Fathers, you shall not be put to death for their sons. Fathers shall not be put to death for their sons, nor shall sons be put to death for their fathers. Everyone shall be put to death for his own sin. Now think about that. Jesus died collectively for our sin, and he did that willingly. He set himself up as a ransom because we could not control ourselves. And he said, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Take me instead. Because he was his Father's son. And because we were not his children. We were not Jesus' children. Jesus' associates. We were his compatriots. We were whatever we are. And so he laid down his life for his fellow man. His fellow woman, fellow man, fellow child, whatever. 17, you shall not pervert the justice due an alien or an orphan, nor take a widow's garment in pledge. Well, because they're, again, a widow is at the mercy of, if she has sons, then the sons help provide for her. And if she doesn't have sons, then she's in a really tight spot. You know, she has to go and caretake for herself. You know, and that can be really hard. There weren't a lot of jobs out there to begin with. It wasn't like they had factories. You know, they had each person was their own enterprise, basically. Okay. 18, but you shall remember that you were a slave in Egypt, and that the Lord your God redeemed you from there. Therefore, I'm commanding you to do this thing. And then here we go. Here's what you could identify as welfare, if you wish, if you want. 19. When you reap your harvest in your field and have forgotten a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to it to get it. It shall be for the alien, or for the orphan, and for the widow, in order that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat your olive tree, you shall not go back over the boughs again. It shall be for the alien, for the orphan, and for the widow. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, you shall not go over it again. It shall be for the alien, for the orphan, and for the widow. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore, I am commanding you to do this thing. So nowadays, it's go shake the trees, go get rid of every last drop, because this is a really good commodity and we can make a lot of money and blah, 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 blah. But it used to be leave it on the tree. You go pick whatever you're picking from there, and whatever's left on the tree, you picked enough. You picked according to the will of the Lord. Now whatever is there belongs to whomever wants to come and get it. And so these gleanings, the leftovers, things that are on the olive tree or on the grapevines or out in the fields, they belong to the foreigner, to the orphan, and to the widow. And as Derek had mentioned with Ruth, she was out there doing the gleanings out there, and it was enough to provide for her and Naomi. And so that's just how they ate, and this is what sustained them. And then what was his name?
The owner.
Boaz.
Boaz, thank you. And
Boaz.
Boaz saw this, and so he would make it a point to leave more than normal. He'd say, okay, just you guys go pick, but not so hard. Leave some. Because he saw there's people out in the field that are doing, you know, if you're out there and you're doing that every year and nobody's coming by to get that, you know, you would probably be like, well, you know, okay, whatever. So it's just kind of going to waste. But if you see somebody out there actually going through the gleanings, going through the remnants of these things, then it would be, yeah, okay. Thank you, Lord, for giving me this much. You know, help these people out and leave them some more.
You know why people didn't like Boaz before he got married?
Why?
Because he was ruthless.
Aw. Good one.
Oh, that was good. That was that was
I
good.
shouldn't have said that while you were taking a sip. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. Shall we continue?
Sure. Where are we
All
at?
right. Chapter 25.
What time
If there
is
is what time is it? It's going on 6.
Okay. All right.
If
6:30.
there is a dispute between men and they go to court, and the judges decide their case, and they justify the righteous and condemn the wicked, then it shall be, if the wicked man deserves to be beaten, the judge shall then make him lie down and be beaten in his presence with a number of stripes according to his guilt. He may beat him 40 times, but no more, so that he does not beat him with any more stripes than these, and your brother is not degraded in your eyes. So Jesus was given 40 lashes. Well, they only did 39 just to make sure that they didn't miss or overcount. But still, and he hadn't done anything, but he had been judged, even though he had been found innocent. Because Pilate said, I find no guilt in this man. He says, fine, I'll go ahead and scourge him, and maybe that'll serve your needs, and that'll be enough for you. And so he was scourged, and but that wasn't enough. He wanted him crucified as well, and so that he would pay the sins and pay for the sins of everyone. So he was condemned for our sins, not for any of his own, and he paid our penalty. 4, you shall not muzzle the ox while he is threshing. So while he's out there and you're you're not plowing, you're threshing, you're bringing down the plants. They've matured, and now you have your team of oxen, or you have an oxen or ox or whatever, and you're going through the fields and you're taking down the things. You're not going to put a muzzle on him as he's walking. Let him walk. He's doing his job. He's working hard. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So, yes, ma'am.
Well, what would the muzzle do?
It would prevent him. It would go over his mouth. So you can imagine that some of these grains are probably going to be feeding the ox as he's going through the field. And if he wants to eat while he's working, let him, because
Oh,
he's working.
okay.
Yeah. 5, when brothers live together and one of them dies and has no son, the wife of the deceased shall not be married outside the family to a strange man. Her husband's brother shall go in to her and take her to himself as a wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. That way they keep it in the family. That way you don't have outside, because once a couple is betrothed to each other, and once they are together, now that's a sealed family. That's a family unit, and that's how that goes. It shall be that the firstborn whom she bears shall assume the name of his dead brother. So Pete and Jason are brothers, and Pete marries a gal, Jane, and then Pete dies. And so who did I say? Pete and who?
Pete and Jason.
So Jason now takes Jane as his wife, and when they have a baby, the firstborn baby is going to be named Pete. Okay, to keep the to honor his brother, so that
So that name stays in the family.
yes, thank you. It shall be the firstborn whom she bears shall assume the name of his dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. So, but if the man does not desire to take his brother's wife, then his brother's wife shall go up to the gate to the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to establish a name for his brother in Israel. He is not willing to perform the duty of a husband's brother to me. Then the elders of the city shall summon him and speak to him. And if he persists and says, I do not desire to take her, then his brother's wife shall come to him in the sight of the elders and pull his sandal off his right foot and spit in his face. And she shall declare, thus it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. In Israel, his name shall be called the house of him whose sandal is removed. And I think that's pronounced, but I don't know for sure. So think about that. Now she goes up to the elders and she says, hey, I married this guy's brother, and my husband died. I don't have anybody to provide for me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll be a good wife. I'll, do whatever. I'll have his kids, all this other stuff, but the guy doesn't want me. And he's like, oh, I don't want her, I have no good reason other than I just don't want to. And the elders get together and they say, no, go in and do your deal. And he says, no, I don't want any part of that. So then she goes before the elders and she says, he won't marry me. He won't perform. Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't say whether the other one's married or not. What if the other one's already married?
Well, you can assume that he's not married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's assume that. So she says, she goes up to him and she pulls the sandal off his foot, spits in his face and slaps him with the sandal. I'm keeping this. You wouldn't give me a kid. You wouldn't honor your brother. I'm taking your shoe instead. Nuts to you. I'm leaving. And then they change his name. Here, look, it's Shoeless Joe. Or One Sandal Jeff, or whatever it is, Here comes Hop Along Carl. It's happened because he's only got one sandal. 11. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas? Some confusing statement about something unrelated? Anybody?
That just seems like a strange custom
It does.
Yeah,
with
Yeah.
the shoe and everything. I wish I don't know. I wish I understood that better.
you wish
Well,
what?
I wish
What,
I understood.
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I'm just saying, I wish I understood that better.
Oh, okay, got it.
Next week, if you'll allow, this week I'll look it up and I'll look up the tradition of that and what that it means. Oh, hey, wait a minute, Marilyn, you have there you go. Would you mind looking it up for us?
So it's 25 what?
Mm-hmm.
25:10.
10?
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
7 to 10, but yeah, 10.
If the man does not wish to marry his brother's widow, then his brother's widow is to go to the gate to the leaders and say, my brother-in-law refuses to raise up for his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of his husband's brother for me. The leaders of the town are to summon him and speak to him. If on appearing before them he continues to say, I don't want to marry her, then the brother's widow is to approach him in the presence of the leaders, pull his sandal off his foot, spit in his face, and say, this is what is done to the man who refuses to build up his brother's family. From that time on, his family is to be known in Israel as the family of the man who has the sandal pulled off.
Thank you. Does that
Mhm.
make any more sense? Does it clarify anything else?
No, I mean, I understood what they were saying should be done. I just don't. I don't know. I
The
don't
why,
get why.
the why
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah, like
Because
why is
because
yeah.
in order to remember, well, let's go back to verse 6. It shall be that the firstborn whom she bears shall assume the name of his dead brother, so that his dead brother's name will not be blotted out from Israel. It's a memorial to his brother. And so whom was the actual husband, the first husband. And so and because this second husband is coming along to assume the duties of the first of his own brother who's now dead, they continue to honor the dead brother through naming the firstborn son the dead brother's name. So it's a memorial to him. It keeps
No,
his name.
I get that, but why involve a sandal and spitting? Like, why is that the response if he doesn't want to do it?
Well, that's a fairly shameful thing. You know, you pull his sandal off his shoe. I mean, this is just meant to humiliate him, basically. You know,
Okay.
pull his sandal off his shoe and just slap him in the face or spit in his face. You know, in front of the elders. It's meant to embarrass and shame him for not living up to his duty. And this is what happens to the family who won't keep. You know, what is it they say? Thus it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's house. You know, you're acting shamefully. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing your family. You're leaving your brother's name destitute. You know, you have an obligation. See, it isn't like it is now where you just meet somebody and you're living whatever. A marriage included both families. They knew each other. They knew each other. They interacted with each other the whole 9 yards, and there was always this obligation, spoken or unspoken, um, that should the groom die, his brother's going to step up to the plate. You know, and so that's the ideology behind the best man at a wedding. The best man was usually the brother of the groom, and he was prepared to step in should the groom die.
Got it.
And so if he's refusing to do that, it's like, you know, well,
So
you're
it's
shaming your
almost
family.
like he had promised beforehand,
Yes,
and then he's backing off of his
right.
promise. Shame on him.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah, you have a duty to perform and you're not doing it for whatever reason. You know, and if you weren't willing to do that to begin with, then you shouldn't have stood up there and you shouldn't have made that promise. You know, you
Mhm.
should have made that known beforehand so that everybody had knew what they could or couldn't do in the case of an imminent demise. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Makes more sense now.
Yeah, I'll continue to look into that though, but because that is a strange thing, the sandal and the spitting in his face. I mean, to have somebody spit in your face, it's, you know,
Scary.
especially in the presence of all these guys who are like, what do you mean you're not going to, what, you're not going to keep your end of the bargain? You're not going to do this? You're not really not going to do this? Seriously? Come here.
Well, it
Jane,
doesn't,
come in.
I understand in the case of a best man, but this is a brother. I mean, he was just born into it. He didn't promise anything. And it seems optional because it seems like it's not a commandment that he has to do this.
Right.
Because otherwise there wouldn't be an option for him to not do it. But then it also seems on the other hand, like it's a shameful thing if he exercises that option.
Yes.
So,
So it is a commandment, just an inferred command.
Then the other thing is, can't they just go make another sandal? And then they have another sandal.
Yeah, yes, they can, but the name goes with them. Why do you want one sandal? Well, you know, have you seen her? She spit on me. You know, she doesn't cook. She doesn't, you know, whatever. The gaslight the gal.
Mm.
hey, I
But the
have to
thing
run.
is, he would have to travel a very far distance to get another sandal because these are very small, very close knit communities. I'm sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
No, I just looked at the time. I have to run.
Oh,
You guys normally go till 6:30?
Why don't we
sometimes
we can end
Okay.
now.
we can end now.
I'm gonna try to be on the next one.
Okay.
All
Excellent.
right.
Thank you. So
We'll
we
see you
are
guys
at
later. We'll see you guys Saturday, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Saturday. All right,
All
buddy.
right.
See you then.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Bye.
So do you guys want to stop here? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, we are at verse 11. And I don't have my marking thing. Ah, yes, I do. I have my marking thing. Ha ha ha! Which is also known as
A pencil. A pen. Yeah, last week I didn't mark mine. That's why I goofed up today.
You didn't goof up. You didn't
Oh,
goof
you
up.
know, I was calling you to the previous Tuesday instead of last Tuesday.
Maybe there was something in 22 you needed to hear again. Was there?
Could be. Maybe.
All right. Well, Lord willing, we will meet here again next week. Same bat time, same bat station. Rachel, did you leave us?
No, I'm right here.
All right. Do you and Copper want to lead us out with a prayer or
Sure. Thank you, Lord, for having us here on this Bible study. Thanks for teaching us through Rick what you wanted us to hear. And please continue to bless us as we go about. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Amen. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.